So excited that you're learning song leading. Just wanted to do a few things to help you learn how to do song leading for LTC this year. And I hope that this video will be helpful to remind you of some of the basic things that we talk about in person and that you could practice them while you're at home. One of the things that I think is very helpful in song leading, and we have hopefully talked about, is being able to read music just a little bit. So we're going to talk about 4 different kind of notes that you're going to see. The first one is a whole note. I always remember because there looks like there's a hole in the middle of the note. So that's a good way to say that. So the whole note is the biggest and the longest note that we have. Whenever we take a whole note and we divide it by 2, we get half notes, okay? Because this note is half of this note. So we have a whole note, and then we have 2 half notes. So 1 over 1, this is 1 over 2. But if we divide a half note into 2, it becomes a quarter note, okay? 1 over 4. And there are 4 of those in one whole note. If you notice, these are all the same length. That's because a whole note lasts as long as 2 half notes and as long as 4 quarter notes. But if we divide the quarter notes by 2, we get eighth notes. They can look like this. Notice that there are 2 notes together. Or they can look like this. 2 separate notes. So a quarter note divided into 2 is 2 eighth notes. And they can look 2 different ways. 2 more eighth notes. And I have 2 more eighth notes. Whole note, 2 half notes, 4 quarter notes, 8 eighth notes. You could see 1 over 1 is a whole, 1 over 2 is a half, 1 over 4, 4 quarters, 1 over 8, 8 eighth notes. That gets to be important whenever we have something called a time signature. On most of the songs that we're leading singing for, you're going to see a time signature of 4/4 or maybe 3/4. Every once in a while, you'll see one that has 6/8 or 12/8 or 9/8. So what do these mean? The bottom number is important here. Notice the bottom number for the quarter notes is also a 4. So the quarter notes look like the 4. The way that I think about this, the bottom number tells me what kind of note am I looking for, and the top number tells me how many of those notes should I expect to find. For instance, should I be looking for 3? Or should I be looking for 4? Of the notes with a 4, they're quarter notes. Okay. Now, look at this one. It has an 8 on the bottom. These have the 8 on the bottom, and I should be looking for 6 of these. So I would take away 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that makes a full measure, even though it doesn't add up to a whole note. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm looking for 4 quarter notes. Or maybe I'm looking for only 3 quarter notes, so I would have just those 3. 4/4 is going to be far and away the most common one that we're going to run into, particularly in song leading. So what do we do with 4/4? Remember, that means I'm looking for 4 quarter notes. So I have quarter notes here, and I'm looking for 4 of them, and I have 4. Now, that means if I'm looking at one measure, which is what happens between bar lines, you can't see those very well, then I'm going to find 4 quarter notes in one measure. Now, that means 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to have 4 beats in that measure. So this is where my hands come into play in song leading. We do what we call conducting. You've probably seen me leading singing and I'm doing something with my hand. What am I doing? I'm conducting. So there's a pattern, and it says that 1 is always down. It doesn't matter what the time signature is. It doesn't matter anything else. 1 is always down. Then we have 2, and I like to say that 2 goes in, 3 goes out, and 4 goes up. 1 is always down, 2 in, 3 out, 4 up. You can also say floor, door, window, ceiling, and that might help you remember it as well. But if we go with both hands, I can go down, in, out, up, and that helps me to remember also. Because if I say floor, door, window, ceiling, do I really have a floor and doors on both directions and windows on? No, I don't. So down, in, out, up. Down, in, out, up. So you'll probably see that pattern on almost all of the songs that we have for LTC this year. So that's the only one that we're going to worry about right now. The lights went out. So that's just a bit of a crash course on song leading and how time signatures work and how the measures work and how a few rhythms work. Very, very basic, like I said, a crash course. I will also be recording videos of each of the songs that you are singing so that you'll be able to see me putting these things into practice, and you can practice along with me conducting and singing your song. I hope this is helpful. Let me know if you have questions.